Lassiter Factor.
What's up, all my movie-loving maniacs? This your boy Bangful B of the Lassiter Factor, and today I'm going to talk about Supergirl, which was released in theaters over the weekend. I went to the theater to go see it, so let's review. So Supergirl is the next film within this new DCEU that is being helmed by James Gunn. It is the solo film for Supergirl, who had a brief but memorable cameo at the end of last year's Superman, where it is revealed that Crypto the dog belongs to her. But this is the first solo outing for this version of the character, in which she goes to different planets with a red sun so that her powers can not manifest and she can get drunk. Comes across a girl who is out for revenge, and those same people that wronged that little girl takes out Crypto. So now Supergirl and this girl is out to look for these people. And while all this is going on, she's still coming to terms with her own personal demons from her past. Now, even though Supergirl was one of my most anticipated movies of the year, it's more so on the lower end, mainly because I know little to nothing about this character. And the Supergirl movie from 1984, which I did watch for the first time last year, didn't really do anything to further my excitement for this new movie or do anything for the character in general. And I know there is a TV version of this character on the CW, but I've never watched any of the DC shows on the CW. So therefore, I have no real attachment towards this character. My knowledge of the character begins and ends with the movies. Now, before I get into my positives, let me say real quick to anybody out there that is bashing Millie Alcock because she's not pretty enough to play this character, as my buddy Kev from the Real For Real podcast once said, fuck around and find out in the comments section if you want to. I don't play that shit. Now for the things I liked about this movie, and Millie Alcock as Supergirl is one of those things. I actually enjoyed her in this movie. In fact, every time she's on the screen, I was engaged because I understood her plight. You know, she's dealing with the fact of, hey, she saw Krypton get blown up, and what was left of her people went into an island up in space, but then she saw those people get sick and die, and her father sends her off to Earth, which she was unfamiliar with her cousin, who's already pretty familiar with the Earth, but she's still trying to adjust to that. And so her best way of coping with that is just going to different planets so she can get drunk. She has a big chip on her shoulder, and that's what I connected with the most about this character, and I felt Millie Alcock really illustrated that. Jason Momoa as Lobo, another character that I'm unfamiliar with, but I've always heard that this was the perfect character for Jason Momoa, even more than Aquaman. And though I've never really had issues with him as Aquaman, I more so have issues with this movie, but this for sure was definitely the DC role he should have had before he played Aquaman. He was right at home playing this character. Granted, it feels like he was just playing himself, but it just works. So I will say it is a little jarring to see him play Aquaman and now all of a sudden play this, because it's like 2.5 years ago I just saw him play Aquaman, and I know that version of Aquaman is almost but a distant memory at this point, but it's still fresh in my head. God damn it! Everything involving Clark Kent, and by extension, when we do go to her past before she went off Krypton and she was on the island in space of what was left of Krypton, pretty much all the information we were getting about her past, I also enjoyed that as well. In fact, I say in terms of her origins, I felt they illustrated that better than they did in the movie from 1984. Now for some things I'm split on, such as Eve Ridley, who plays Ruthie. She was fine as the character, but in terms of her arc in the movie, it was a little derivative from things that we've other seen, and honestly not done as good as other things that tackled her arc. I'm all for more Crypto within these movies, but honestly, I'm feeling like the whole trope of, hey, you killed or hurt my dog, so now I gotta hurt you trope is starting to become a little bit stale. And for the things I didn't like about this movie, for a movie not directed by James Gunn, it sure does feel like a James Gunn movie. And I'm not saying that because of the needle drops, because I know that's something everybody's complaining about. Needle drops, that ain't really an issue for me. I'm talking about in terms of the aesthetic of this movie. It feels like a James Gunn movie because, as we all know, James Gunn, he made the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. And yes, any superhero or comic book movie that takes place in space is gonna bound to look the same like the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. And I understand that completely, but at the same time, like even some of the best sci-fi movies have their own identity aesthetic wise. The whole human trafficking plot within this movie. It was fine. I'm all for a movie that tackles horrible things like that, but the villain of the movie, he was forgettable to me. I honestly just did not care and knew next to nothing about him and cared about him a lot less than I did going in. As a whole, this movie to me just felt a little average. It's not bad, it's just average to me, or mid, as the kids like to call it. As a movie that's part of a larger universe, this one right here just came off in an assembly line. And I understand, you're gonna have those filler movies every now and then, but this is a universe that's still in its early stages, and we just cannot have filler films this early in the game. At least that's how I feel. Despite me saying this movie was average, hey, it's still a better movie than the Supergirl movie from 1984, but even still, that's not a high bar to cross. I'm gonna give Supergirl a very, very low thumbs up emoji, and best believe, that's me being generous. Thank y'all so much for watching. Have you seen Supergirl? If so, let me know what you think in the comments section below. This your boy Bankful B of the Lassiter Factor. Stay safe, wash your hands, peace.